Hang on a minute.
Today's rant is on the topic of government. My last video was called The Problem with Solutions, which was a rant about how we talk about solving problems but secretly sabotage any attempt to define them, let alone fix them. If you want to get more of an idea of what I was talking about, you should check out the last video. Today I'm going to talk about what might be my favourite topic of all time, or maybe perhaps my most hated topic, which is government. When I begin to talk about this topic with people I know, they throw their eyes up to heaven saying, "Here we go again. Why are you so obsessed with this topic?" So this is like asking someone who's got a large thorn stuck in their foot, which is difficult to remove, why they're so obsessed with getting rid of this impediment. It's not something you kind of forget about because it's there and it's like in your face the whole time and it's an obvious problem. So forgetting about it is kind of, it's like being in prison with a bunch of people, you know, like you're actually in prison. It's like grey walls and bars and maybe dogs, barbed wire, guards with machine guns. And, you know, every now and again you bring up the topic of being in prison and people go, like, why are you talking about prison again? Like, you know, like, so you have people trying to forget that it exists and really trying to gaslight you for talking about the possibility of escape. So that's what reality is like, for me at least. So there's this funny story that I know. I read it in one of the numerous self-help books I've read over the years, and it's about this guy. This guy is sitting in a bar, and a chap comes over to him, noticing that the man sitting at the bar has got 2 bananas stuck in his ears, and he wants to let the guy know about his predicament. And he says to the guy, "Hey, did you know that you've got bananas sticking in your ears?" And the guy goes, "What? Yeah, you've got bananas sticking in your ears." And the guy goes, "Speak up, would you? I've got 2 bananas sticking in my ears." Which kind of reflects our reality, that we're so impervious to problems, never mind solving them, but impervious to the idea that our problems are actually problems. That's what I think we think about government. We just will not treat government as a problem, government itself as a problem. We will avoid any talk of questioning the veracity, the justification for existence of centralized, mandatory, compulsory government and taxation. My last talk was called The Problem with Solutions, and I ranted about how people hate solving things and that problems are like a comfort blanket that prevent them from ever having to think clearly about the jam that they're in. So this talk is about the biggest problem of all: how to create a better world out of the absolute monstrosity that we've created. So just to start off with, let's just assume, let's be optimistic and assume that we're all interested in truth, justice, equality for all mankind. So we spend a lot of time talking about these things, and we insist that we truly want the best for everyone, including and most especially the most marginalized in society. So that's a start. At least we pay lip service to these things. Unfortunately, for most of us, that's where it ends. We're too busy to really worry about our fellow man. We have mouths to feed and mortgages to pay. So unfortunately, we can't go exploring any rabbit holes, because who'd know where we'd end up. It might bring my view of reality to a grinding halt, which, to be fair, is true. It would take some time to recover from the shock of facing reality, but at least you've a slim chance of getting out of your prison alive. The first chink in the armour of government. So, when did we get asked, do we want to be citizens? When did we get asked, did we want to pay taxes? So, let's talk about taxes. When we finally come of age, to the age of being about to pay tax, do we receive any nice letter welcoming us to the tax system? A letter which expresses gratitude for the massive quantities of hard labour we are so kindly about to donate, along with control over our worldly possessions. Do we not get a little thank you? No. All we get is a letter telling us how much to pay, along with threats about what happens if we don't do so. It's kind of like the God in the Old Testament, a complete bastard who keeps reminding us how much he loves us. Do we even get anything to sign so that we can record our willingness to participate? No. That's unless, of course, we're self-employed, like me. I get to sign tax returns, which I have dutifully done every year. Though last time around I decided to include the words sub duresu signatum, which is legal Latin next to my signatures, which means signed under duress, which indicates I haven't consented to signing for paying tax, but that I'm forced to do so. This actually legally nullifies my signature, because the signature is a mark of consent and assent to contract. Otherwise you wouldn't need a signature. Nullifying my signature makes the joke out of the whole thing. But of course, despite my efforts, I still have to pay just enough to avoid prison. So I pay a paltry sum every month, which is nice. Well, it's not nice. Why doesn't the revenue provide a nice breakdown of where all their money goes? A set of accounts for the government which indicates all of the marvellous things they're doing with our money. Do we not get that? Do we get a choice of services? Are there any hospitals which operate outside of the government monopoly? What about schools, or police, or army, or a million other things? Insurance. You think that insurance companies aren't in bed with the government? When you think about it, as a responsible parent, these matters should at least be explained to your children when they get to old enough to understand. At least they should be asked, do they understand, and what do they think about it? That's if we were responsible parents and a responsible society. The next thing I want to mention here is the hypocrisy, the astounding level of hypocrisy that you will get from your statists, being people who support government and taxes and all that. What you'll hear everyone say is, oh, everyone must pay tax and those who don't should go to jail. But of course, I, however, avoid paying tax when I, pay my gardener or buy something from a friend or give a gift or, But this makes a complete mockery of the tax system. Imagine telling your gardener, if you wanted to pay tax, if you wanted to be upright, telling your gardener, oh, wait, before I pay you, I must run this payment through the books. Can you give me a receipt? And, of course, obviously you need to charge me VAT. And I'll pay you VAT because I'm a good statist. But we all know that the gardener isn't going to hang around for long if he's been asked to give a receipt. There's loads of other people who will gladly employ him paying cash. What does our tax contribution get us? It gets us things such as wars, child trafficking, involvement with criminal gangs of all kinds, clandestine organisations on black books, conspiracy to defraud through arrangements with corporations and international organisations, nepotism and fraud, theft, and a million other means of corruption. But you ask, what about the hospitals, schools, roads, police, courts, etc.? All of these can be privately handled under the auspices of local organisations run by local people with agreements with other local organisations if you want to transact across distances. Of course, if you want to run organisations that aren't immediately corrupted and self-destructive, you have to ban people in secret societies. You just can't have people who are involved with secret societies involved in any group, any organization that you want to be viable. That's just the way it is. So look, if you want to join a secret society, just go ahead. But just know that you won't be allowed to become part of the local decision-making any of the local decision-making organizations, unless there's a group of people who want to have their own private secret society, and they can go off and do that and have their own thing. That's absolutely fine. Knock yourself out. But you can't pretend to be on the level with people if you're secretly doing deals behind their backs, which is what happens in secret societies. Why would you have them otherwise? So recently somebody asked me, what do you do if you get knocked down crossing the road? Do you refuse to get treated by public services? If you're anti-statist, do you tell the ambulance crew to piss off because I don't agree with this monopoly being served by this monopoly, and you can just let me die? Okay, so no, I won't do that because, well, first of all, I've paid for it already. So yeah, I actually deserve to be treated at least with the the minimum service. But the other thing is that these services are monopolies, and so there's no choice in the services that you pick. Like, I might pay more for a service, let's say a health service that I knew was being run transparently and it did a lot of good for people, and it was way better than what this joke of a health service that we have these public health services are jokes everywhere. Private ones can be run multiple times more efficiently and cheaper. There's an example of one in the States where people are paying into a private health insurance provider. They just, I don't know, a few hundred people set it up between themselves, and they get services for a tiny fraction of the cost that it costs people paying even just for public services, just the taxes alone. So these things there's so much inefficiency built in that just by removing the inefficiency automatically makes them cheaper. Just from the outset makes them cheaper. And that's besides then having the competition which would drive organizations in a free market to become more efficient again and to come up with better solutions for everything. There's no incentive in the public service to do that. And that's just the way it is. I mean, I'm not even blaming people for that. That's just reality. I'd be the same if I was caught in that trap. So that's kind of my rant at this point. That's all I have to say. I have more to say on the topic of government, but I'll come back to it another time. We have this Iran war thing going on, like wars, and we're paying for the wars. It's like, and who wants the wars? I understand the psychopaths, but it's the people who go and fight for them and lose their lives in the process, and then the ordinary people who gain absolutely nothing from wars whatsoever, other than kind of be able to say, my kid is working in the local arms factory. I mean, people could be working in other areas that are life enhancing rather than life ending. I'm not against having weapons. I think people need to be able to defend themselves, but I'm talking about defense, not this culture of violence that we have, especially in the West, is constant in the movies and in our political discourse. The worldview that we have, I'm for basic self-protection, and whatever's required to have self-protection, absolutely. But causing violence, attacking people, is obviously just wrong and immoral, and it should be robustly opposed. That's probably all I have right now. So I'd love to hear what you think. Yeah, so thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you again soon.
If you'd like to support my work, please consider purchasing my book, Tales from the Lockdown, which is available on Amazon, and you can go to talesfromthelockdown.com to find out about purchasing the audiobook or any of the paperback or hardback editions or various ebook formats. Thanks. Also, if you're interested in the philosophy of liberty, there are some excellent resources on libertas.earth.